Ready to build resiliency, create a healthy lifestyle, and overcome adversity with a warrior mindset. This is Define the Fight with Mariah Prussia.
Hey, welcome back, everybody, to Define the Fight, where if you don't know what you're fighting for or fighting against, how do you expect to win the fight? And today we're going to dive into defining health with naturopath and researcher. Now, when I say researcher, it's not just in regards to human health, but also soil health. So please welcome Will Spencer. How you doing this morning?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Are you living the dream this morning?
Living the dream. It's been busy already.
Well, if you're not living the dream, you're living the nightmare. So we have two choices in life, and I would like to choose the earlier versus the latter.
I'm with you.
All right. So
that's the way I look at it too.
So Will, you do so many different things. What actually led you into learning more about human health, soil health, and just really diving into research on to improve overall well-being?
Well, actually, it was the first 20 years of my life growing up on a family farm, a conventional farm, having basically all through the summer 7 to 10 day flu cycles, which coincided with pesticide application that my father did on potatoes and corn and beans. And so it was actually the 20 years of not feeling very good and not liking it in my skin. So a friend of mine gave me a glass of herbal tea when I was 20 and said, "Here, drink this, your asthma will go away." And so I did, and I haven't looked back to conventional medical model at all. I've been my whole career so far over here in the natural health world.
That's amazing. So what were some of those things that were in that tea, if you remember?
Oh yeah, I mean, we sell the combination today. There was mullein, there was red clover blossoms, there was yellow dock root, marshmallow root, just to name a few of really good herbal teas. So it really helped to loosen the phlegm and allow my lungs to actually expand and take the first real deep breath of my life at that point.
You know, you help a lot of different individuals, and I spoke with Bethany, who was on the show last week, Bethany Berkeley, in regards to where she shifted with her cancer and her treatment. And it's amazing to me on how you and Pat were actually down in Texas. And I had reached out to say that, well, Bethany actually lives in Texas, and you guys were 3 hours away, and you're like, oh, give me the address. If she's open, we're on our way there. And you guys drove there, you met with her, and now you have her on different protocols and supplementation. And I can't thank you enough, because most people wouldn't go that far out of their way for a complete stranger. And that's exactly what you do, is you lead through a heart-centered space, but you're not afraid to take action in helping them move forward.
Yeah, no, I'm not afraid to take action. I've actually protected myself and got myself in these out of the medical space and over here into the private space, so I'm able to do what most naturopaths can't do, and because I don't have the fear and intrusion of certain controlling of the controlling mechanisms that's built into medicine, because I'm outside of the purview of that. As a nonprofit, we're able to do much more to help people to with their health.
So you do a lot of different things. Now, I have the paperwork that I haven't submitted in yet. So scanning, the full body scan. And I haven't pulled 25 hairs out of my head yet, but I'm going to. Usually it's my kids where it's like I'm losing hair because of it. But for that testing and that scanning, what are the different elements or key pieces that you can determine through those scans?
So we have a base scan of 140 categories, and that is your brain and neurology health of all the different components, all the different abdominal digestive organs and glands, your endocrine system, all the different glands, from your thyroid to your pineal gland to your pancreas and inside the pancreas as well. We look at blood markers for the thickness of your blood. We look for all the different, no, I shouldn't say all the different, but the main, I think there's 8 main parasites we look for: bacterial, viral, um, heavy metals, and nutritional deficiencies. So it's a pretty comprehensive test. And then from the test, we're able to then the computer software then generates a recommended protocol to follow to offset the stress of all the categories. So it's a very holistic approach.
So what do you find are the most common deficiencies that individuals who have taken the scan are finding within? I mean, clearly there's, parasites has really been a huge buzz in the last couple of years. You didn't really hear about it or pay attention to it so much in the past as more so in the present. So what are some of those deficiencies that you find first and foremost that are very common within individuals?
Well, I've done over 20,000 scans. I've done all of those scan consultations myself. And there's some silver line, there's some threads that connect every single scan. So everyone is nutritionally deficient of some kind, whether that is a mineral or a vitamin, but every single scan is nutritionally deficient. Doesn't matter. We've had samples come in from 5 continents, and everybody is the same. The second commonality is everyone has some level of toxicity in their body. Whether that's pesticide residues, pharma residues, metals, or plastics, there's some level of toxicity systemically. And the third one is infections. Everyone has them systemically. And so knowing that is how we really I built the software to look at all of those indicators, because those are all immune system issues that are allowing the infections to be where they are. And so it's all about the health of the immune system. And so that's where we've built the direction, because of all the scans have taught us so much dealing with people. And so I don't categorize or look for the individual elements, because we have a holistic approach in our protocol as well. So we're putting in over 90 different nutritional elements, minerals and vitamins and amino acids in whole food or in forms that are readily available biologically as well as electrically recognizable. So I'm a firm believer in, if you put what's in the body that it needs in a form that it can manage, then it will do what it needs to do to correct the problem. So that's how I look at that. That's why I don't have an easy answer for you to answer that question, is which vitamin or mineral that we're low in, because it's a little bit different for everybody, but systemically everyone is malnutritioned.
No, and that makes sense, because genetic makeup, everybody's lifestyle is different. And what are they taking in? Are they taking in more whole foods? Are they taking in foods that clearly have are more processed? What does that all look like? But when you're talking about your scans, you said you've done over 20,000 scans. What is the time frame of those? Is it a 5-year, 10-year, over? What is that? And then what have you seen change or increase during that duration of time?
This is our 15th year, or actually it's going into the 16th year now of doing this. I've been doing telehealth since early 2009 and late 2008 is when we closed the clinic down in Minnesota and moved and discovered I could use the internet to do a much broader, help more people. So 2009, so 15 years of doing this.
And what have you seen over those 15 years? So let's just say, starting 15 years ago to the last X amount of years, what have you seen elevate, or what deficiency have you seen increase amongst those scans?
I can tell you that Lyme's disease is pretty much airborne on all 5 continents. And there's over 105 organisms that are associated with what they're calling Lyme's disease nowadays. A lot of these infections there's so many things airborne right now, especially now coming out of winter, going into spring. The pesticide residue in the air in the United States is always elevated every spring. And coming out as the ground thaws out, the water column, the moisture increases, and the stuff is blowing around out of the soil. I'm seeing, well, the nutritional deficiencies is all over the board with people, but selenium is one of the big ones that hardly anybody has. Erythrium and some of your really ultra micronutrients is almost nobody has. A lot of metals, aluminum, barium, chromium, arsenic in the metal form is always pretty much elevated in everybody. And what we're finding is when you're nutritionally deficient, your body requires certain elements for metabolism and genetic things to take place. So it's going to pull the toxins out of the air and the metals out of the air or the food or the water to fulfill certain needs. And so I'm very I mean, that's something I'm concrete on is you got to fix the nutritional deficiency issue if you sincerely want a sustainable metal detox program, because we've seen so many people now come to us that have been forcing the detox of metals and certain compounds and actually harming themselves because they're not fixing the nutritional deficiency side of that. So that's some of the main things when people come to us.
So, Doc, well, when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about the nutritional values and what people should be looking for, because we know in the United States that we have certain substances on labels and included in our food that we shouldn't have. But before we dive into nutrition, I just want to make a statement here with being in the health and wellness industry for many, many years, being a personal trainer for the past 23 years, there's so many different questions that people have. Plus, there's a plethora of products that are thrown on the market from, hey, what's the best pre-workout? What's the best protein? What is all of these different things? And what I can say is it makes people's heads spin, because if they gravitate towards an actress or somebody who looks the part, well, then that's it. That's the moneymaker right there. That's going to get me to exactly where I need to be. And Will, I got to share this with you. My dad is in his 70s, and he called me the other day, and he goes, Mariah, do you know who Chuck Norris is? I was like, yes, Dad, I know who Chuck Norris is. Well, you know he's in his 80s, and he's still doing great, and he posted and was talking about this product that he takes, and it helps him with his longevity. And I said, Dad, I love you. I love you, man. I said, but here's the reality. He probably didn't make the product, but he's getting paid to promote the product. So it's just keeping those things in mind when you're looking at products. Well, so-and-so takes it, so I should take it. And I think where we're failing as a country and as a nation is we fail to look at the ingredients and really recognize what it is. We take time throughout the day for other things, but yet we're really lacking on doing the research on how we're fueling our bodies. So when you look at nutritional labels, I know there's a variety of things that you look for. What are some of the key things like you're like instant red flag?
Oh boy, instant red flag. Anything that says spices. We're talking supplements or culinary, either one. I mean, I'm a passionate about, that's why I'm a manufacturer of most of our supplements for our protocols, because I was taught by a couple of my mentors about formulating. They were specialists in combining different compounds together. And so labels like on food items, anything that says spices has got to be very questionable. If you can't understand it, if you have to Google it, you shouldn't eat it. That's kind of a no-brainer there. On a lot of your supplements, that's like titanium dioxide, bulking agents, filling agents. I am not a plant protein person at all. You've heard of gluten or lectins. Those are plant proteins that are toxic to humans. I lean extremely hard towards the past the keto, even toward to the carnivore side of things. Again, it all depends on, again, the damage that your digestive system has, because there's so many people. I mean, almost every single person has some level of irritable bowel or some digestive disorder nowadays. So it's a little bit interesting to unwind through some of that to really help people. But I can say that like the products that we carry, because we have over 1,000 probiotic strains in our stuff, we have a lot of enzymes and heavy nutrition. And so I believe you have to have those items in your diet in as supplements, because you can't eat food nowadays and expect to gain a headway, because the soil is so deficient, the food is so deficient, and so if you're not supplementing something, you're not getting ahead with your health at all just by thinking that you're going to eat yourself into health. It just doesn't happen nowadays.
You talk about supplements. So there's a variety of different ways to look at supplements. Some people look at it, it's a protein powder. Some people look at it's all the different things that they need for the gym. But when you look at supplementation, it's also vitamins, it's minerals, it's all of the different things that people need, right? To a certain extent. I'm not saying protein that they need all these different supplementations or the fillers. But when it comes to looking at vitamins, when it comes at looking at omegas, all of those different components, what do you feel? Now, again, this is broad because we're talking different demographics. You've got children, you've got athletes, you've got mothers, fathers, you've got individuals in their 70s. If you were to compile all of those individuals into one segment, what would you say from a vitamin perspective that is a great start for people to start building that base on what they need to start intaking to fuel their immune system?
Oh my.
I know that's a loaded question, man.
That's a really loaded question, because I have my own view, and I push my own my own what I've experienced to be the best based on 20,000 scans, and working with a lot more people beyond the scans. So I can tell you, if you're buying your multivitamin mineral from a box store, you're better off eating the box it comes in than taking the vitamin, um, because just their lack of understanding, like the general store that's selling you, like GNC and some of these other, Walmart and all these big manufacturers, their quality is so low and their active ingredients are so low because of FDA oversight, that you're not going to get what you're needing. Like we use a vitamin combination that, for instance, the vitamin C alone is 6,800 times more than the standard recommendations by the AMA or the FDA. The vitamin Bs some of them are multiple thousands of times more than the recommendations. So you got to understand, your recommendations that the AMA and the FDA are putting out there right now are so low that it's even crazy that you would even consider such a low number, or a low quantity to fill the needs that we actually need, because our food is so deficient.
You were talking about the FDA, and everybody has different views, but I have always questioned this. Why is the Food and Drug Administration combined? When you're looking at food and you're looking at wanting to have individuals take it from a natural state, that should be a separate administration compared to when you're looking at the drug and the pharmaceutical. Because when you're talking about other countries, reverting back to what I mentioned earlier, is that our ingredients are so much more. They're packed full of so many things that most countries ban. So then it's questionable on those things. And that also demonstrates the importance of why individuals really need to research what they're consuming. Because if you don't know, like you had mentioned, if you have to Google the ingredient, you probably shouldn't be consuming it. And now more than ever, everybody's immune system is so suppressed. And that, yes, that comes from nutrition. It comes from stress. It comes from overstimulation from electronics, lack of sleep. The list goes on and on and on. We spoke about nutrition, all of that fun stuff, but Will, we had a brief conversation. I teach classes on my farm because you know what? What life is better than living on the farm? And 5 out of 7 women were talking about health at the very end. And all of a sudden, one of them started talking about their daughter who had broken out in hives. She passed out in school, had a fever, so on and so forth, where her hives were her entire body. It went away for a week. Then it showed up on the bottom half of her body, went away, came back, top half of the body. And then all of a sudden, everybody's like, well, my son actually has hives right now. And then another individual said, well, my son also is getting hives. And then another individual said, well, one of my employees had to call in sick because her child had broken out in hives. Now, keep in mind, they're not all going to the same school. So, I posted something on social media questioning to see how many individuals right now have experienced it themselves or if their children have experienced it. And there was a plethora of inboxes that came through from not just this area, but from, different states. And there was quite a few responses talking about, well, it's from anxiety. It's an instant, flip from, with the body spiking and how it responds to stress with anxiety that hives naturally will show up. And I said, I kind of question that. And the reality is I question everything, and including myself. I question sometimes how I show up or, my way of thinking. And I think it's important for all of us to question ourselves too. Like, where did that thought come from? Am I speaking out of ego? Am I speaking out of fact? But then also having an open mind to listen, to understand. So when it comes to the hives, what are some of the things that you are seeing in your neck of the woods? And then also kind of breaking down what you feel some of it stems from.
Well, in my book, it's first thing I look at is environmental impact. I mean, what is your skin? It's the boundary between your insides and the outside environment. It's also an expression of if your lymphatic system, if your detox pathways are blocked, and it can't, whatever you're coming in contact with can't work its way through the system, it's going to get pushed out through the skin as well. So it's just the body's mechanisms. There's some commonalities that I'm seeing from all over because we have clients all over the North America, mostly right now, and there's some EMF issues that are I'm noticing because I have some friends that are electrical engineers that are monitoring just ambient air in different areas, and there's 2 locations, or actually 3 locations that are really we're having more of these issues like this, the breakouts with the skin and so forth. And that's in your public school systems, your hospitals, and your government buildings. Those 3 places have a much higher background EMFs in the environment, and a lot of more complaints from people in those 3 environments that we're finding anyhow. So because EMF toxicity is like hardly anybody's looking at that. I don't know why, other than it goes along with the technology and that everyone. I mean, we're talking to you on right now. I'm doing this interview on my phone so you have all this up-to-date technology that we all have around us, and routers and the EMF frequencies in our environment are definitely increased over the last 5 years for sure, especially the last 3 years.
We've done different things, and this was probably, I don't even know how many years ago. I was a chiropractic assistant, and I went to a seminar with the chiropractor, the doctor, and the individual was showing how cell phones impact the body. And he had us do a test where you extended your arms straight out to the side and resist, right, without holding anything. And people were able to sustain and maintain that position with their arms. As soon as they hung on to the cell phone, did the same resistance testing, the arms went down. Now, the question for some individuals were, well, you're holding something in your hand, you're naturally going to be weaker. Well, you held a landline phone and you do it with a landline, well, it's grounded. And then you were still able to sustain that position. So our bodies, they take on energy from people. Everything that's really around us has energy. So I know some people question that when you're talking about EMF and how it the transports and how people take it in. Break that down a little bit more on how you feel, right? And how you've noticed and researched on how it impacts the body.
So when you're in a nutritionally deficient state and you have toxicity in your body, when you have an abundance of electromagnetic frequencies in your environment, you're definitely out of balance even further. Like you said, you can do those kinds of tests to determine that very simply because we're electromagnetic beings. I mean, just right here, sitting in my chair, there's over 2,000 electrical transmissions taking place from my brain through my central nervous system and muscles and everything to keep me sitting upright and talking and everything every second. So when anything to interfere with that, which when you're in a nutritional deficient state, your body can't move energy and information through your nervous system very well. Then on top of that, you have toxicity, which shorts things out and causes more imbalance. And then you're getting it from the outside, the EMFs, electrical magnetic frequency from the outside, it adds more imbalance. So it's really a challenge. We have a lot of things stacked up against us. And then you throw on one more big thing that is coming up now is the pesticide residues that is now free floating in the air that we're getting in air samples all over the country. So you have all these things stacked up against us. So imagine, just if you will, for a minute, all of those negatives, and yet we're expected to be upright, coherent. We're expected to be on point when we're talking all the time. We're expected everything to work right. It's amazing we're even alive just by looking at just air samples, let alone then looking at the EMF pollution. When you just have the EMF pollution alone and you come in contact with high EMF pollution, and this is easy to find on the internet, this is not anything mysterious at all. You have mucosal linings, which are your ears, your eyes, your digestive system that begins to break down and be challenged. And then you have immune responses. So if young kids are getting these hives and things, that's actually a high immune response. It's an active immune response because a lot of people don't get the skin issues right away. They get an internal issue, or they'll get a headache, or they'll get some other thing happening. But definitely the hives and the skin rashes and the itching in the ears and the mucosal lining issues, those are some of the main ones that I'm seeing.
We're talking about just electronics in general, and I'm talking from a personal state, is I know that I don't function well if I'm on my cell phone a lot. I have my time limit set for social media for 30 minutes. And sometimes, yes, I will click, change up so I can go like another minute longer, 15 minutes longer, so on and so forth. But personally, if I'm on it too long or sitting in front of a screen, I know my energy is impacted where I will start having dull headaches. I will start feeling fatigued. I noticed nausea also at points where as soon as I set it down, and let's just say I go out in nature, right? Nature's free. Let's just keep that in mind. Most people are stuck behind doors. I'm like, I can't get out. Yes, you can. And it's one of the most healing and untapped resources of decreasing your stress and improving also with multiple things. But yeah, I know that it's impacted me. And you spoke about mental clarity briefly in there too. And there's studies that have shown said before COVID, right, the attention span was roughly 20 seconds. right? Where a person can actually keep attention. And now coming out of COVID, all of those different things, how it's dropped down to 8 seconds. So either A, when you're having a conversation with somebody, you better talk really fast, bullet point it, or make sure that you're also working on ways to disengage from the cell phone personally so that you can start being more present within your day, and then also work on that health perspective too.
Yeah, being present is a big thing because most people are not. Because of just social engineering that we have. That 8 seconds thing, I've heard 7 seconds. So um, that because I like doing 2-hour interviews and longer just to get a lot of information in. But most people have a hard time with those kinds of videos. So I've been told you got to keep it like under 2 minutes, and that is a really good indicator that our central nervous system, our brain, are is unable to process that kind of data for any longer than 8 seconds. And so again, back to, yeah, we have the EMF pollution and all that, but our our brain, our central nervous system cannot process that much information over a longer period of time, just in general. And so that just leads more, leads more to the nutritional deficiency side of things, because the people I deal with, if they're on our program long enough, meaning 3, 6, 9 months, they start to have such clarity because their body is actually healing and rebuilding itself. So that just leads more to the nutritional deficiencies and how that is such a critical component in our life and functionality.
You said 7 seconds and I said 8. I'm going to stick with the 8 seconds because I want to make sure that I finish riding the bull. Right?
Exactly.
So Will, let's talk really quick here about some of the different things that you offer for your offerings for human performance, and then the different projects that you're leading into for soil reclamation.
So you want to hit the website, or I mean, how do you want to
Talk
do
about
that?
some of the, so you offer the scans,
I,
right? So you offer the scans, and then you have
right.
different supplementation too. So what are some of the products that you offer?
Yep. Oh, supplementation. So we have over 1,000 different probiotic strains, mostly soil organisms. They're also known as transient organisms. They do not colonize inside the body. That is a very big missing out in the commercial natural health industry, because they're a little more sensitive and they're more volatile, meaning you got to take a little bit of extra care in packaging, shipping, and so forth. Heavy minerals, humic and fulvic acid, that with over 90 different elements in it, more probiotics and so forth. So very heavy nutrition, mostly whole food type of products, a lot of fermented products, the fermented products that are then available in capsule form, just because it's not practical to eat all these different things. So just heavy nutrition. It's basically the same for soil. It's heavy nutrition. I mean, we have stuff for honeybees, and getting more nutrition in for the honeybee in the hive, as well as getting the pesticide residues out of the hive. It's the same philosophy across all these different genres. Agriculture and human health are so related that it's just a delivery system. Really got to fine tune, but it's the same thing. The plants and the animals, the bees and the people, we're all nutritionally deficient, and we're all coming in contact with toxicity. And just those two alone, just correcting those two issues, the body, our body, the plant, the honeybee, they respond so quickly. And so again, in the soil, what we're doing is our system, one of the systems you can find at medicineclan.org, because I have a joint venture with a indigenous alliance in Indian country in the Midwest, where we're actually taking pesticide residues, heavy metals, chemical fertilizer residue in the soil, applying our system down and remediating and transforming. I call it transfiguring the microorganisms actually convert the toxins into essential fatty acids, which then benefit the soil. So you don't have to remove the toxin. You're actually putting our products down, which is heavy nutrition and microorganisms, or probiotics, if you will. They do the cleaning and conversion and making beneficial elements, essential fatty acids for the environment, which then stimulate a massive growth. And so that is what we've been doing now. We're going on a couple of million acres right now in the Midwest this year. So far, we've got a lot of negotiations happening because our soil is so toxic. We've been putting industrial waste products, aka fertilizers, like from ethanol plants and so forth, that are very high in cadmium and chromiums and other residues that are now toxifying the soil, that they can't even sell their crops because of the metal increase. It's toxic. And so our system is remediating and fixing that. And so then during the growing season, we're able to clean that up, and then the farmer is able to sell their crop for a decent price that's non-toxic and healthier.
You spoke about the humate and honeybees. Okay, so I'm going to gravitate towards the honeybees because we have them first year, and
Sure.
so far out of our 6 hives, 5 of them are still living and flying and kicking, which is great. But with using the humate in their water, it was amazing that we did not have to treat them for mites, which is very, very common for the bees to be treated. So you mentioned that having products for bees. I'm going to definitely look on your website for those because it's important, right? We had purchased a different type of mite control, and the smell itself was very, very strong and toxic. I'm like, I don't think I want to use this on the bees. So we pulled them out of the hives because of the strong scent, having to wear gloves. And I'm like, now we're putting it in a hive where this is food to feed ourselves and others. So I'm glad that you have something for the honeybees, and recognizing, like, I'm right. If I wouldn't put this, if I was in my home, aka my hive, if I wouldn't want this in my house, why would I want to put it in the home of my bees?
Exactly. That's the way I look at things as well. I mean, everything that we use, you can eat, essentially, literally, whether it's for agriculture, the bees, or of course for supplementation for people, but it's that safe. And so that's how I look at it as well. I mean, if I got to wear a hazmat suit to apply this particular substance on what's going to be consumed as food, why in the world would I do such a thing? That to me is so backwards that it makes no sense to me. And so I'm really glad to see a lot of agricultural people, the farmers, they're really coming around to this non-chemical way of looking at things. It's finally, I mean, because my mentors come out of the 1800s and into the early 1900s, that they were actually doing this biodynamic type farming back then, and it's finally really relieving for me to finally see that it's becoming a thing. Yeah, it's coming around.
It's coming full circle. So, Will, what are the websites? I know you've got numerous, but let's talk human health. What is the best website for individuals to find you, and then also look at the different type of, if they want to take that scan, so on and so forth? What is your website if you want to throw that out?
Bodyelectrician.com. That is one of them. Patientadvocatebulldog.com is the most active one. That's a sub brand of ours. Vibrantbees.com for the bee products. Environautics.com is for our agricultural products, and then medicineclan.org there's a lot of information there. And again, our online stuff is being updated right now, so it may change over the next few weeks. So.
You got it. Well, I want to thank you for coming on the show and sharing your expertise, and then clearly your passion towards human health and recognizing how we are fueling ourselves. And until next time that we actually physically meet in person, continue to define your fight. And everyone that's listening today, you know what? You have to be willing to step into that ring or cage of life, define what you're willing to fight for, and hopefully that is your health. So we will see you next week on Define the Fight, where we have Pink's former drummer, Mark Schulman, that will be on.